Today on Ambition Blueprint, we have Derrek Eby, a true force in the world of health and fitness and resilience. Derrek's journey hasn't been an easy one. From facing personal challenges head on to building a successful business, he's navigated the tough times with an unwavering commitment to his vision. He's passionate about optimizing his health, achieving body composition goals, and helping others transform their living lifestyles through nutrition and fitness. But his story goes much deeper than that. It's about grit, faith, and lessons learned from persevering through life's hardest moments. Derrek, welcome to the show. Let's dive into this.
I love it. I love you. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah,
honestly.
Absolutely. So my first question was going to be about like your discipline towards starting your own business, and you were in bodybuilding at first, right?
Yeah. Well, I started the business before bodybuilding, but I was in bodybuilding before the business was ever anything successful. So bodybuilding definitely played a big role in me getting that discipline I needed to take the business where I needed to go.
Well, what would you say, like when you started your business, what was like some of the doubts that you had, or like the voice inside of your head that was always haunting you?
Business is hard, man. And I started my business really young. So I was not even 18 when I started first personal training clients and started the business. So back then it was a lot of just trying to create any level of reputation that people would respect me for. I think I was eager for people to respect me as if I'd been in the industry for 10 years when I was like 6 months in. But it really like we talked about the other day real quickly is like, it takes time to build that reputation. It really does. It's difficult to be patient in those moments. And I think it's one of the things I struggle with the most of the time is like having patience to allow it to just flow over time the way it needed to. Cause it's easy to say that now, 11 years later,
you went through all the hard stuff.
Yeah. When post hard stuff, 11 years later, you're like, wow, it was easy. But then you rewind through like 17,000 miserable moments where I thought it wasn't going to work, or I thought it was going to fail, or where money was just like not working, or the business wasn't working. And then like those ups and downs, just higher highs, higher lows, all the way to where we are now.
I know you mentioned something like you like about what Alex Fermazzi said, like about the hard stuff, where if you do that hard stuff, nobody's going to follow you. Yeah. So how has that been? Like, how's that pushed you further?
Yeah, I've always had this obsession with like, and then the best way of putting it, like being harder than the people around me, just like pushing harder, working harder. I think I had like a big ego attachment for a really long time to being the hardest worker in the room. And there's a lot of value in that. Like there definitely was, like as long as my ego was attached to it, I was like trying to work 70, 80-hour weeks all the time. In the gym with like my physique, I was trying to take it to like this crazy level all the time. But there's a give and take there. Cause I said, there's like, going and doing harder things than other people was really impressive. But like I ended up with my physique taking it so far that my health went bad. And like at times with even the work, I ended up pushing my workload so hard and the stress level so hard that like my health went bad even from that. Like I had heart issues and like panic attacks and issues that came a couple of years ago. There's definitely like a middle ground that I think that people have to find.
So when you were 16 when you started your personal training business, was that Hercules then, or it was Hercules after that?
So it's funny. It's had a bunch of names over the years. So when I first started my personal training business, I was 17 and it was called Just Bulk. I know it's like the goofiest name. At the time, I was like a skinny 150-pound kid, and everything in my mentality was just like putting mass on and getting as buff as possible. And all my clients back then were like men. I had a couple females, but Just Bulk. And then the company had another name in the middle where the company was called Derrek the Healer, which is a really interesting time period. This is when it was like all the health stuff was still there. I was really working deep in disease prevention, but I was really deep into like meditation and a lot of hippie stuff. You'd see me wearing like hippie pants everywhere. And it was an odd combo. I was like a bodybuilder that meditated all day. But it ended up working out. It became Hercules about 6 years ago.
Okay. Do you guys think you'll be staying with Hercules as it moves forward?
Yeah. I love our name. Like I said, I honestly thought it wasn't a good name. Like I love it. Like I have
it's a good flow. Yeah.
I have Hercules tattooed all over my body. Like it's something I connect with a lot, but I was worried that it wouldn't connect with like, society or just people well enough, but people love it. So, it seems to connect.
I think your brand, like people find your brand, like it just attracts it. Yeah. That's how you get all your clients.
It's been a blessing. I don't know.
So how would stoicism like play into your life and your fitness?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Stoicism is definitely something that I would say I've played a balancing act with, kind of with that first thing, which is that I spent a lot of my life, which had benefit to it, being like a brick wall, which was, I always used to comment on this, like that I was a brick wall, that I was impervious to damage, and that, you know, every emotion and every stress just bounced off of me. And it really was, it's like, that's actually something I used to talk about a lot. I've realized over the years, obviously, that you need to be more like a rubber wall. You need to be, you know, malleable. But when it comes to like the stoic views, I think it relates a lot back to like masculinity. And I think I get a lot of my like my power and my push from my masculinity, because I'm a really happily married man. I've been with my wife longer than I've had the business. I've been with my wife for 12 years, and that like need to take care of her and that need to outwork the market so that this is successful, that we could have the life we have now, was something that was always important.
Yeah, no, I think that's a hugely important thing. And a lot of men nowadays are lacking like higher masculinity.
Yeah.
Because I think we're built to like just protect and provide, obviously.
It plays a huge role, man. Like I said, if you, I mean, like in the stats way, you could say, like I said, most millionaires are married. So it's like, so if you want to be successful, finding a good woman is going to raise your likelihood of that. But even beyond that, there's the drive you get when you need to really provide, when it exists. Because, you know, during the growth of Hercules, there was a lot of years where my wife was paying the bills, like, you know, and we were poor. Yeah. And like that'll eat your ego up worse than anything. Is having your wife be the provider while she works, so that your thing could possibly one day work out.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, it does play itself, because then when you do become that millionaire, that man, then she's the one that gets to enjoy all of it.
Yes,
she sticked with you through those hard times.
Oh yeah, she'll be the first one to retire. Like I said, I've been trying to get her to quit her job for like the last 2 years. Like she likes going to work. It seems it's something for her to go do. But like if I had a choice, she would already quit. And hopefully it's one of our big goals is that she won't be at work in the next like 3-4 months.
That's awesome. Hopefully that happens then.
Yeah.
So I know starting a business isn't easy. It's not made for everybody. On your journey, what was like the number one like setback for you?
Gosh, those are good questions. I think allowing stress levels to get too high was probably my biggest setback. And I know that sounds like the opposite of what you think, but it's good to have stress. It is. It's good. It's good to push yourself to like a limit. But I think that there's some of us, a lot of guys I know in business who are quite successful, where we have this ability to like regulate our stress too far, where like stress can get so massive and so beyond the point that a normal person could handle it, and we can brush it off as if it's nothing. The problem is like unconsciously and underneath the surface, it will build and it will build. And that's where you start seeing a lot of these successful guys like dropping heart attacks, or like they're having panic attacks. Like that's happening behind the scenes with a lot of these really successful guys, even in the area, and they just don't talk about it. And I think that one of the big setbacks for me was just allowing myself to put the pressure on myself, like as if there was a deadline. Like all the time, it felt like if I wasn't a millionaire in the next like 6 months, I had failed. Or if I didn't add 100 clients the next 6 months, I had failed. But the reality is like, you know, we're just living.
I think there's a positive in on that too, because you are pushing yourself harder than everybody else. And I think it just comes down to how much can you take.
Yes.
Like there's always that limit of, okay, I didn't get 100 clients this month. Let's go for 200 instead. And then keep on building onto that. I
definitely think, and I don't want that to sound like I'm saying you shouldn't push hard either. Because I think like most people in the world don't push at all. No. So like, don't psychotically push to a point where you're like your health is at risk, or that your mental health is at risk. But like find a point just a second before that, like 1 inch before that, and keep yourself there as long as you can.
How do you deal with stress?
That's a good question. Obviously, the gym has always been a really helpful thing. I think that if I didn't have the gym, I don't know what I would do with that. I am blessed that I have my wife, like sincerely, like having a good partner to go lean on, to like my wife very much is a soft woman. She's a very feminine, caretaking, like classic woman. She's very traditional. Good. So there is something to that of like letting the stress go because she can like take care of that side of me, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And then beyond that, like I said, I'm big on meditation. So I really am like an avid meditation practitioner.
Do you like do all the grounding and everything too? I've heard a lot of good benefits on that.
Yeah, I try. So like I have a coach who's like the guru of this stuff. Like he meditates in the snow with his shirt off, like in the winter even. Like we call him a goof, but he really is probably right. But definitely, even whether we travel, whether we're home, there's a certain amount of like physical expenditure I think that everybody should do every day, and I try to. And then there's a certain amount of time I spend just like trying to find peace.
Mm-hmm. Would you say when you go to the gym, you know, there's those guys that like just go past failure? What is failure when this like, all right, this set, we're going to go till failure? What does that look like?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. One of the big things with failure in the gym is that you have to understand that everyone has a different perception. Mm-hmm. So like even when you read the studies on the stuff, they'll say that like going to failure can be too far. So that's some of the new literature says that you don't need to go all the way to failure. The problem is in those studies, they're actually taking someone to like scientific failure, which is like such an extreme. The average person in the gym thinks that they're hitting failure, but it's because their mental is giving, that not their physical. I think that's like a big thing that people get mixed up in the gym. They're like, they want to stop, not their body has to stop. Those are the differences.
I think David Goggins says something about that too. Like when you feel like you're done, you're only 20% done. Like you have like 80% left more in the tank.
I can't tell you how many times I've had a client who is like telling me that they're going to failure and that they're hitting plateaus, and then I'll go in the gym with them and push them the way they need to be pushed, and their weights will go up and they'll hit all these new reps and they're mind blown. But really it's just because they just weren't pushing as hard as they thought they were. Like you learn when you do the hard things what hard really feels like.
Do you follow Mike Metzner at all?
Yeah.
So what's your, I'm kind of curious too. What's your view on like his splits? Like he does like one set till failure, only like 3 exercises.
So I love Mike Metzner. Mm-hmm. He's actually the guy who started high intensity, low volume training, which is genius, which I personally believe to be the best. I think there's a little bit more volume than a singular set for a muscle that you can do. The science is pretty clear on that. But he really did develop a lot of the knowledge that we've built upon. That is what we do now. But once again, like if you go in the gym and take a single set to failure, to that crazy extreme, my belief is that you'll probably still build more muscle than someone who spends an hour in the gym just weaning around. Because you do see a lot of that. You see a guy in the gym who's been there for 4 years. He looks the exact same as he did 4 years ago. I feel so bad for these people. Yeah, and then you also see somebody in 3 months, they transform completely. And almost all of that's like the intensity of what you're doing.
For somebody that wants to transform in that 3 months period, what advice can you give them?
Yeah. So if the goal is fat loss, I'll give you 2 answers just quickly. If it's fat loss, walking is going to be your best friend. There's nothing you can do like taking your step count way up that'll help you lose fat. It'll also burn almost no muscle too, which is a huge part. So up your protein, count your calories, walk a lot. If you do that right and work out, you'll do great. If you want to build muscle though, it's kind of the same answer. But instead of adding the walking, it's just adding more training, intensity to your training, and then making sure your protein intake and your calories are right too. Like, and one of the things I always say is like, if you're not tracking things, whether that be tracking your weights in the gym, tracking your food, don't expect to get like otherworldly results. It's like one of the things we say all the time is like not tracking stuff is like trying to follow the speed limit without speed limit signs or a speedometer. It's very difficult.
Yeah, it's huge. So I think, so you would say like your diet is like definitely important in bodybuilding.
It's number one. Like I said, like the big thing is like without training, there's no stimulus, so you won't grow anyway. Mm-hmm. So you do have to have the training, but physiques are built in the kitchen. There's no question about it. Like everyone who works for me is either a dietitian or a nutrition specialist at a base, and that reasoning for that is because nutrition is everything.
How strict do you have to be on your diet? Like, do you get cheat meals or do you?
You definitely can. So there's no secret trick to like have them for example. So it's like, if you have a cheat meal, you'll have the results of a cheat meal, which will be extra calories, which will hurt your goals. Like there's no cheat meals that are beneficial, at least in my opinion. Like even when we have bodybuilders, we don't expect a cheat meal is going to make them lose weight better or it's going to affect them positively in that way. Usually it's for stress relief and cortisol drops and things like that. But I don't think that you have to have a miserable life. I think, like I said, we mentioned 75 hard before. And I think a lot of people go this like not even just 75 hard. They go this mentality of, okay, I'm going to step into this misery for 3 months, but because I step into that misery, I'll transform, and then I'll have that transformation, and that's beautiful. Then I'll go back to normal. But the problem with that is, if it's not something you can keep up with forever, you'll just revert.
It's just a waste. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a waste. So finding something where you would love the food, you love how much you're eating, you love the training. Like if you hate a certain kind of weightlifting or you hate a certain part of your diet, just don't do it. There's other ways. There's millions of ways to do this.
Is there a way like you can ease into that, or do you say just don't? Let's just what am I saying here? Like instead of easing into it, just do it no matter what, because who cares?
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of discipline to that. So it depends on the person. So we've all seen the person who like stopped drinking soda and lost like 20 pounds. So like, I think there's a level of that. So if you're someone who's extremely unhealthy, so that's where we're talking about like the extremes, you can probably get away with doing some small stuff like that at first and see massive changes. But if you're a normal person who just has a normal amount of extra body fat or wants to make changes, there's not really a benefit to going into it slow. Like my perception is obviously I want to do things right. And it doesn't mean they have to be hard, but there's no point in doing stuff at 50% the pace because it's just going to be twice as long. I'd rather personally, like when I diet myself, I like to go into a diet and make it perfect so that I can have the whole thing done in like 6 weeks. I go from no abs to abs in 6 weeks just because I want this shit to be done. Like, I mean, like there's no diet that really anybody's going to love. Like, especially when you're dieting. If you're trying to shrink, if you're trying to lose fat, the body doesn't like it. Like there's very few times you're going to do something like that accurately, and you're just going to be like skipping down the road with a smile. It's just, you can do it better, but you just can't do it in a way that's perfect.
So I know a lot of people, I think where sometimes they make mistakes is they'll go on this bulk and out of nowhere, they'll just incredibly increase their calories or incredibly like decrease their calories. And then they're like, why do I have no energy? Or why do I feel this way?
We talk about this all the time with like dirty bulking. Like people don't even use the word, but they're what they're doing. Some people use the word. We used to do it back in the day. I mean, it was kind of fun. I remember being like 20 years old and be like, I'm just gonna like eat peanut butter out the jar and like anything I could consume. I just like made an excuse that like, this is all muscle. This is all muscle. It just doesn't work that way. The science is very clear that being in like 1,000 calorie surplus and being in like a 300 calorie surplus don't actually change how much muscle you gain. So that extra 700 calories is all just gonna be fat. So it's like you're just deciding to get fatter. That's it. Like
just gotta do more walking, more cardio now.
Exactly.
Oh gosh.
And you'll lose some muscle in the process of trying to lose that fat, so you end up with less muscle too.
How do you think your early life experiences shaped the way you approach your challenges in business today?
Yeah, more than almost anything. So I grew up with some rough aspects of my upbringing. I grew up around a lot of addiction, and I grew up in a position where I kind of had to take care of my parents a lot. And that was just like a normalcy for our situation. And that turned me into this loving caretaker that I am, which kind of, shifted into my business. And there's some of that, but also within my household, because of some of those factors, like, those situations are rarely pretty. They're rarely stress-free. They're rarely like non-chaotic. And that's exactly what ours was. It was chaos and stressful. And it did create a situation where I got extremely good at handling high levels of stress, which I think is the only reason I've made it this far. Like the only reason that the Hercules exists was my ability to just like eat a bag of shit for like years because it was so hard. Like, and you do see it within a lot of these big business groups around here. All the guys that I know who are in business, who are making, $500,000 plus a year, almost everyone, like just without missing a beat, had like a pretty traumatic childhood. And I hate that exists, but it tends to lead to more successful people.
Yeah, I think like the more trauma you go through and you overcome, especially, you have to overcome it first. Like it just builds like a different character in you.
It does.
It lets you like open more doors that you can take on more challenges.
Yeah, like I said, when your childhood prepares you that way, then there's almost just an expectation that in life, that's just how things are going to be. So for a lot of people who have these soft upbringings, which sounds nice on paper, I don't think they're inherently good for you. If everything's soft, then when things are hard, it feels abstract and it's scary, it's new. But if everything's hard, then when life's hard later, this is normal.
It just sets you up for a good life.
Exactly. So it's like, don't don't soften your kids up too much.
I know we do have a lot of snowflakes out there. It's pretty controversial if you get on that topic, but for people that are wanting to start, like a lot of people say they want to start, but they never do. They never take that leap. How could you encourage someone, or not mean encourage, what advice would you give them?
In business or in physique?
I would say just physique, really.
Okay. So physique, the biggest thing that I tell people all the time is that, let's just say someone wants to transform the way they look. And they're so scared of the fact that, wow, this might take 6 months. This might take 2 years if they're really, really, really unhealthy. And I say to these people all the time, I go, well, in 2 years is going to pass no matter what you do. No matter what you do. Like, you are going to be 2 years older. You might be 2 years more unhealthy. You might be the same as you are right now. Or you could be 2 years healthier. You could be 2 years leaner, thinner, more muscular, whatever that looks like. 2 years is a long time. You can do a lot. And from someone who obviously can experience this in my own life, 2 years is really fast when you look back on it. You know, day to day, 2 years feels like an extreme long time, but it's not. And from a lot of people's transformation, that's the other thing I would add to that is like, a lot of people think that they're 2 years away from their goal, but we have people work with us all the time, and like 1 month in, they already look like aesthetically better. Like it can happen really fast.
So it builds that momentum too. Like, okay, I see some progress, and then it just goes from there. I think one thing is everyone wants to see results right away instead of focusing on progress, of just focusing, okay, I went today, let's make sure I go tomorrow, and then make sure you go the next day, and then you stack stuff up, and eventually you have more support. Yeah.
Like I said, the Alex Hormozy says this quote I like, and it's talking about confidence, and confidence comes from having a massive stack of evidence that you could do this thing. So it's like when you're a month in to losing weight, now you have a month of proof that you're capable of, and that changes everything, because most people have never had a month of that in their whole life. Or whether it's building muscle, like they've never had a month where they built muscle. So like they have no confidence in the idea of it. So once you get it, it makes it just that much easier.
I know something I talk a lot about, I think on almost every podcast I've had, is like who you're around is kind of who you're going to become. So if you're in business, or not mean business, and physical side, like if you're fat and you're around 5 lean guys, you're probably going to become pretty lean.
Yes.
And vice versa. How would you say having a trainer or having a personal dietitian would help you in that way?
Yeah. It's huge. So exactly that. I think a lot of these people have a lack of self-belief. And I always say to clients when we're starting them, is like, we believe enough to make you believe. Like, like we know our process, you know, like for us, your client, you know, 1,222. And I don't mean that in some way like you're not significant. You're extremely significant. It's just that there's nothing that you're scared of that we have not already solved in somebody else. There's a lot of confidence. And when we can bring to the table high level calculations and make it so you can see progress faster in a way that's easier than you expected, that's when people really have that realization. When someone gets their diet plan and it looks like, wow, I can eat this? Like this doesn't look like a diet. And then they look at what they have to do. It's very easy. And then all of a sudden they drop 5 pounds that first week. They go, wow, oh my God. And you just see this transition in them, because like, once again, hard is good. I'm not against hard, but hard in the right like ways. So like if there's a way to make something easier that's classically difficult, it's not a bad idea. So like setting a diet up in a way where it's really enjoyable, or setting up a workout plan, or even your business. Like if your business is extremely stressful, it's a good thing to like shape you into someone stronger.
Yeah.
But don't just sit in hard because for the sake of the fact that you're trying to become harder. Just find a way to make it better. There's a lot of better ways to like become hardened and become stronger than just living in struggle.
Yeah, I think something that, I don't know who I heard it from, but he was like, the more hard you can handle, the more opportunities God's going to give you, because you're showing that you can handle more hard.
I love that. I love that. We were just talking about this yesterday. I actually went to a biblical leadership conference yesterday. We talked literally about this exact thing, which was just the parable of the bag of gold, which we don't need to go into, but it's like, for anyone who Googles it or looks it up, it's a very definitive thing. Like you just said, is that if God gives you the ability to do great things, if God gives you the ability to make wealth, if God gives you the ability to be strong or fit or run a successful business or help people, and you don't, what a shame.
Yeah.
What a shame that is. What a spit in the face of the universe that is, for you to be capable of being amazing and you just don't.
Yeah. I think another thing is like, it's not supposed to be easy. It's like you said earlier, if it's easy, it's not going to shape you if you're supposed to be. Yes. You're supposed to go through those hard times to be the person you're supposed to become.
Yeah. You never ever hear of like a champion or someone amazing who just like simply walked through the park to this like this amazing life. And it's where that heavy is the crown point comes in. Some people say things like, if you knew how hard it was, maybe you wouldn't want it so bad. There's truth to all those things, but I think that if you can accept it's going to be hard, just accept it. Just accept that it's going to be hard. Then you can find a way to make that hard enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. So I know we were talking about tough love, and then how do you like have tough love with your clients?
That's a good question. It definitely depends on the client. So I'll just say that. So a lot of these people that come to us are like broken. These are just broken people. So like when you have someone who's, 400 or 500 pounds, they've been overweight their whole life. These people, there is no self-esteem. Like, there is no, confidence, and it's never existed. They've never learned an ounce of it. So with those people, there really is a softness where we are very much doing therapy more than we're doing, boot camp sergeant. But on the other hand, like with my bodybuilders, with these guys who are at that level, it's kind of like I say with my own employees, it's like, my job is to make you do the things you don't want to do that will give you the things you want more than anything else. And that's hard for people to it sucks to be the guy that has to be mean sometimes, whether it's my employees, whether it's my clients, whether it's anything, but there is a beautiful thing when you get to the end of that.
Yeah, I think they have more respect for you too, because nobody else told them throughout the way.
We live in the soft world where people just want a patty cake. Mm-hmm. You're good. You're good just the way you are. Yeah. And whether that's with your financials or these toxic relationships people are in, or your physique or your health or anything, it's like, it's what's that old quote? It's like telling someone they're perfect the way they are is like telling a drunk person they should keep drinking because they're funny. Yeah.
That's awful.
It's awful. It's awful. It doesn't help.
True,
it doesn't help anybody. Mm-hmm. Like just giving someone a positive answer to make them stop feeling bad about the horrible things they're doing isn't a good thing. It doesn't help anyone.
No. I was also going to add to that. How could you surround yourself with better people like that? It's going to be tougher on you.
That's a good one. So I'll say a couple answers because there's a couple good answers. I would say that if you just get into a gym, you'll immediately set yourself up an environment where you'll spend an hour or two a day around people, whether you're talking or not. Even if you're not talking, there's energy in spaces. You walk into a place, if people are pushing themselves, you see sweat, you see grit, it will rub off on you. That's free. That's a great thing. You might have a friend who's just as sad as you are. Find that person. You might be the person that saves them. They might be the person that saves you. Find a partner. And the last thing is sometimes you got to pay for it. And I don't mean just out of my business. I'm saying I have paid for business coaches. I have paid for tons of seminars. I've traveled for it. I've paid for my own health coaches, mentors I've paid for and every single one of them fast forwarded me years.
There's something I do want to add on to that I've learned recently. So I used to think I'm not going to pay for that. That's such a scam. But I've learned you have to make that commitment to invest in yourself, and at the long run you're going to make more. Because another thing I like to live by, I think Andy Elliott says this, is you are your business card. Your physique is your business card. When you walk in a room and you're in good shape, you're going to grab everybody's attention because it shows discipline. It shows that you work hard and you show up every day.
With no offense to anyone specific, we've all seen that personal trainer who's 100 pounds overweight and it just doesn't make it's
I can go into that even more. I absolutely hate it. I mean,
it doesn't make sense.
I appreciate that they're doing it, but I would want to have a coach that looks like I want to look like. Why am I learning from somebody that's 300 pounds? Are you sure you know what you're doing?
Yes, exactly. I said, you want the person that you're working with, whether it's your health coach or even your business coach. I would never hire a financial or business coach who isn't richer than I am.
Exactly.
That would it makes no sense at all. Mm-hmm. So it's no different with your physique. It's no different with your trainer. It's no different with anything. Find someone who has what you want, and I guarantee you they'll be able to tell you at least a little bit about how to get closer to having it.
Yeah, no, that's really good, because that's always been a pet peeve of mine when I see it in the gym.
Yeah, it's common, man. I said it goes back to that soft world. It goes back to that soft world. Like I said, people don't want to tell the truth anymore.
Yeah. So when you are staring down at a big decision or facing the unknown, how do you personally handle the fear that might come with it?
It's a big one. Big decisions come often, and hardship comes often in business at times. I think that this is where like your values become really, really important. And if you don't know your values, you should learn them, because it's easy to say your values, but to actually go about studying and learning and figure out what they really are. Because for me, my values, we were literally talking about this today with my staff. My values is kindness. I care for people and I work really hard. Those are my biggest values. So if I'm doing something and it's not aligning with those, let's say I'm making a decision that doesn't care for somebody, doesn't treat them with kindness, and doesn't, show my work ethic or my quality, then I'm not going to do it. And I think that the more you do that, the better. And then the secondarily goes surrounding yourself with these amazing people. Because for me, when I make business decisions, I have, 15 or 20 of my closest friends who own businesses that I can call any of and bounce these ideas off of. Usually they'll tell me that's genius, or they'll say you're an idiot. They'll say like, what are you even thinking? And having those people in your life is also, so like values and then the right people.
Mm-hmm. And I know that gap is getting really big with people that just don't have values because they haven't took that step.
Yes.
What's a good foundation that you can start building your values?
I think building your values comes a little bit from knowing your values. So one of the biggest exercises it's funny, I was talking about this with my staff today. One of the best exercises you'll read in a lot of success books, I like to read a lot, it's called like the funeral concept. So what you do is you just simply imagine it's your funeral and you write down what you would want for men, it's your father, your best friend, and your wife. For women, it's your mother, your best friend, and your husband. But you write down what you would want the three of them to say about you at your funeral. It's a really great exercise, because what you'll find is that the ego that we feel day to day kind of washes away, because it really will show you what you want these people you love the most to think about you. For me, that's when I hear kindness, care. He was the hardest worker I know. And if someone is like, I don't know what my values are, start there. And then once you get there, I think there's something to keeping up with it, because it's kind of like keeping promises yourself. Like once you have values, they're only values if you keep with them. If you say you're a hard worker, that's a value of yours, and then you slack all the time, it's not a value. Yeah. It's just something that you like to say because it sounds cool. And I think finding a differential there. A lot of people, they don't keep the promises of themselves. They don't keep their own value really high, and the values will just crumble.
No, I think that's a huge thing. A lot of people, it's a daily practice for sure.
It is.
Of just keeping your word to yourself and building that self-confidence.
Exactly. Perfectly said.
What would you say is your hardest lesson that you've had learned on your journey so far?
So here's a big one. I'll try to run up. So I was a bodybuilder and I got up to like 265. I love bodybuilding. I spent 10 years getting there. My identity at this time was wrapped around my physique. Though I had the business, though I was pretty good at the business side of things, though I was a hard worker, though I had a wife, though I had friends, my identity was wrapped up in my physique so deep so that I would do like push-ups in the bathroom at family gatherings to keep like a pump. Like sad things now to look back on that at the time felt important. And when my health went bad during bodybuilding, I had to not only stop bodybuilding, but they told me very quickly, like, hey, you need to lose some of this muscle. Like you need to not work out for 6 months. I had some heart issues I was dealing with at the time that were pretty bad. And throughout that process, I had to come to the realization for myself that my value was not entwined with that thing. Like my identity, my value had nothing to do with my physique. And I've seen that happen even in my business practice, where I thought my value came from how much money I was making. I thought my value came from my ability to sell or to grow my business or to have a bunch of employees. And really, the more time you spend, you realize that my value is much deeper than that. My value is spiritually and just intrinsically so much deeper than that. And I think for me, that was a huge hurdle for me to get over. And it's put me in a place now where I feel like great peace in some of these hard decisions I have to make. I feel great peace in like how I run my business. And I think if you haven't gone through what I would call like an ego death like that, it's going to be really hard for you to truly ever get over the hump of the ego. Ego being the roundabout problem I was struggling with throughout all that.
What would you say is like your number one biggest supporter through all that, and how did that like help you keep pushing forward and not like failing, but like not giving up?
Time and time again, I can't help but talk about her every moment of it, is my wife. Like I said, my wife has literally at times like I'm a big guy, but in the metaphorical sense has just like put me on her back and carried me through things. We always talk about like the 99 and 1%, like the 99 and 1, which is that sometimes when shit's been really hard, I only have like 1% to give, and she'll just give the 99. She'll just give everything over the top to make sure that things make it through. She's the one who would love me when I had nothing, when I was poor, when she was paying the bills, I was still awesome. You know, she's the one that now that we have successes and we travel a lot and we have fun, she's my partner I do that with too. So there's something beautiful in having someone that you can share like all the pain with, but they make it softer, and also someone that you can share all the success with and make it better. It's like, I mean, I can't say enough how valuable her role in everything I have is. Like, it's literally everything.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say, like, when you go and you look for, when you were looking for, or if you weren't looking for, what would you encourage like guys to look for into a good girl? So to make a wife?
No. I talk about this a lot actually, because we happen to be like that healthy relationship around a lot of our friends who are single. So they ask me this stuff a lot. I think that you have to be picky. I think a lot of guys base their partner off sheerly just like sexual desire. And also like the easiest place to pick one up. So like those two things tend to play a big role in where guys get their girls, is like sexual desire and like the place they pick them up being an easy place to find girls, like bars. I personally find because I have one and I see the value in it, and I have friends who have the same thing. Finding a woman that's traditional, finding a woman who has traditional values, for at least for the way my life is set up, is one of the most powerful things I could recommend to anybody. Finding a woman who can both be like a woman of faith and a caretaker, a woman that has like maternal values and feminine value, and like I said, in simple other things I would add is like, if you're with the new girl, I say this all the time, people, if you're with the new girl and you're stressed out about it or fighting with her or things are bad, even in just the first 6 months, just like, it's like time to trade that car in. Like I said, like if you're gonna do something for a long time, like it shouldn't be hard that early. Like I said, because like me and my wife have been together for 12 years, and like I said, like she's still my best friend. You know, like that honeymoon phase crap that people say. It's just like, it's bullshit. Like
it doesn't end.
It doesn't end. It doesn't go away. I like her more than I like every human on the planet. And if I could spend every second with her, I would. And like that doesn't reduce over time if you find the right person.
So what would you say like would be your one piece of advice? So let's say someone is going through that struggle where they feel like they should end it, but they should keep going. What would be your advice to that?
That's a really good question. I've seen a lot of friends in this toxic cycle of like wanting to not be with them and then wanting to also be with them and like battling back and forth. My thing, which I'm super like straightforward, I've said this a million times. Sometimes people think I'm a little too straightforward. If you even think about not wanting to be with somebody, you should leave them. And once again, I'm speaking from a place where I have my very like stern feelings. But like I've never once, no matter how much of an asshole she's been or how much of an asshole I've been, no matter how bad things have been, I've never once thought about not being with my wife, like wanting to leave her, wanting to break up when we were young. Like, so it's like, if you're thinking about that, what I've seen in people is that feeling just grows. So like if you're already ever feeling that way, feel free to go to therapy, work on it. I'm not saying just walk away from your marriage or your life because you have a bad day. My point is just simply that if you're early on and you're dating and you're already contemplating not being with someone, from someone who's on the better side of things, I would say that like you shouldn't feel that way. Like if someone is going to last a lifetime with you, you shouldn't be a year or two in wondering if you should even be with them or like thinking about breaking up with them. Like if you go to your buddy's house and talk about breaking up with your girl, you should go home and break up with her. You've already gone far enough down the rabbit hole of like, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think like the 5 people that you do talk to about that, like they should be defending your partner instead of like defending you. Like you have to go to people that are married to get that advice, because you can't go to somebody poor and be like, how do I become a millionaire?
I agree with you. Like I said, a lot of people will go to like their friends who are also in toxic relatithis to get advice about their toxic relationship. You get a lot of like, he's an asshole, and like, oh, she's this and that. Like you're not going to get advice. Yeah, finding good people, and this goes outside of just the conversation of relationships. Like if it's your business, if it's your physique, if it's your health, go to someone who actually has valuable knowledge on the subject. Like, go to someone that you want to emulate their version of what they have. And if you do that, you'll get the best advice.
That's a good one. So in business, what would you say is like your number one key to success?
Good question. In business, my number one key to success would probably be work ethic. I know it's like such a basic answer, but the truth of the matter is, like, you got to get really good at working. Like, I think everyone, especially guys that are young, are looking for like the 2-hour a day job where they're going to be a millionaire. And I don't know anyone who that's existed for. I have a lot of friends who make a lot of money. You know, I have several friends who are millionaires, and they work harder than I could even ever push myself to. And you almost see a like intrinsic line of like less money to less work. And I think people have a really bad perception of work. Like, they'll be in an office for 8 hours, but really they only worked for like 2 of those hours. They think they're like a grinder. They think they do a lot. Like, if you want to grow your business, if you want to be successful, if you want to be wealthy, if you want any of these things, get really, really, really freaking good at putting your head down and working effectively for hours. And I'm talking about getting good enough where you can do it for entire days, 14 hours. And you're not going to always have to do that, but you have to be capable of that, because at a certain point, as your business grows, as your real estate grows, as these podcasts and as these things grow for you or for anybody, what they're doing, it's going to ask that of you. And if you don't have the ability to it, it will never move to the next stage. Like I said, because every stage, like I said, people like to think the next stage I'll make more money and it'll get easier. It does not work that way. Like, I had a conversation with one of my staff members literally this week where he was talking about how, you know, he hit this massive new pay level, and that's awesome. But he goes, you know, I thought he didn't say I think it'd be easier, but he was saying like there was some idea of like, oh, the bigger it gets, the easier it gets. No, it doesn't. The bigger your business gets, the more money you make, almost always equates to more work and more stress. It's just like and at a certain point, it's worth it. It definitely is. And it will, at a certain point, start moving in a more favorable direction. But you got to get really good at working hard.
Yeah. I think a huge part of that comes from sports. Like, if you were in a sport in high school or college,
yes,
you get that good work ethic just from the start.
Yeah.
Did you play sports in high school?
I didn't. I was actually a bad kid when I was young.
A bad kid.
I was a bad kid. Growing up with like, I don't want to blame my parents or my lifestyle, but I like to have more fun than I should have liked doing. I like to dabble in, you know, I was like smoking weed and drinking and doing worser things, getting kicked out of school a lot and just being dumb. I had like a really, really anti-establishment, anti-authority phase of my life, which, like I said, kind of ended when I was like 18 or 19 years old, and then things shifted in the right direction. Fitness being a big cure for that, my wife being a big cure for that, things like that. But yeah, no, I didn't. I would have got kicked off the team if I was on a sports team in high school.
What would you say is like the number one cure for like depression?
That's a really good question. That's ramped up everywhere. So I'll say this. I have watched clients literally eat a good diet for 2 days, 2 days, and call me and say they feel such mental relief. I've also seen clients do a single day in the gym and see immediate effects. The number one studied non-pharmaceutical cure for depression has been studied is working out. So if you can cut out the toxic things, this thing too, I'm going to go on a quick thing here, but it's important for this question. They did studies in prison where they took all the junk out of the prison and they fed the prisoners good quality food. And the violence rate went down by 50%. And then they added a multivitamin into the study and the violence rate dropped by another 20%. So 70% of the violence in the prison was coming from lack of good nutrition. It's crazy, but it's actually not that crazy because it's not even just like because it makes you evil or anything like that. When you feel like crap, you're not going to breed good things out of that.
I feel like when you eat crap, you're going to feel like crap.
Yeah, and when you feel like crap, you make bad decisions and you don't react well.
Just go down that
everything gets bad. The spiral, it's the domino effect of things, and how easy it is to just like eat better and go move. I say work out a lot. When I say work out, think move, because walking has a beautiful benefits. Like it doesn't always have to be picking up a barbell or lifting a weight.
I think someone also said like just walking outside in the forest for like 15 minutes can like easily just change your mood.
For sure.
I think it was Arnold who said that.
Yeah. Nature's a beautiful thing, man. I try to go on a couple hiking trips a year just because of that. There's something to like leaving your phone behind, going out on like a couple day hike and just existing out there. I think it's one of the thing when you get out in nature too, is that you live in the moment. I think it's very difficult for people to live in the moment. We're not present in our lives. We have these phones. We have all these things taking us away from the present. And when you're in nature, you actually get to kind of breathe back into like this exact moment that you're living in. I love it.
So how can you stay present like day to day?
Meditation is a really good start because when you're meditating, so honestly, I think half the benefit of it is that you just lock yourself into paying a lot of attention to your body and your breath and these things in the moment. But a lot of it goes back to gratitude. So I think a lot of people aren't present because their mind is focused on things they want that usually have a future tense. Like, I'll be happy when I get this much money. I'll be happy when I get the new car. I'll be happy when I get the new house. And the truth of the matter is, I can tell you from experience of doing like, cycles like that, you won't be, because you'll just find the next thing. But when you can be grateful, it puts you into the present because gratitude exists in the present. It exists for what I have now. It exists for this life that I get to experience, the health I have, the people around me. And if you can do gratitude journals are amazing for this. Or just taking a moment throughout the day to just like think about how awesome it is to exist and be alive and have a good life. It can really lock you in the present.
I saw a picture the other day and I feel like it's really easy to not be like humble or take a lot of stuff for granted.
Here's the thing, man. Gratitude is a really, really difficult thing for people nowadays. And for me, it's always been a little mind blowing that it is, because like the water in our toilets is cleaner than most people's drinking water. We have an unlimited supply of it. We have air conditioning and heat and a roof and all these things nobody thinks about. We're in this beautiful room right now. And like, this is amazing. It's raining outside. Yeah. You wouldn't even know it. We're dry, we're warm, everything's beautiful. So it's like when you can really lock into the fact that the only things that matter in life are like your health, the people around you, and your environment, because that's really it. Like you can change your environment, buy a bigger house. You can change your environment and buy fancier stuff. You can be on a vacation. But at the end of the day, like, things are just as good whether you're poor with the right people in the right environment, safe and healthy, as they are. They're better than they would be if you were unhealthy with a lot of money in the wrong environment.
Bad environment, yeah. I think your environment definitely plays a huge key of how you're going to become successful.
It does.
And then that leads into my next question. How can you decide or know when you're in the wrong environment and take that step to get out of that environment and lead to a new environment?
That's a really good question. So if we're talking about the environment of people, so I think there's a couple answers. So the environment of people, I think I see a lot of people who are around people that don't make them feel comfortable. So let's just say you find a group of business guys to be around and they're very successful. They're very cool. But you don't feel good about what they're doing. I think this relates a lot to values. So it's finding people that cohesively have values. I have friends who do no business, who in no way, shape, or form would you consider entrepreneurial at all, who just work, factory jobs. And I share values with them on every level, and I trust them so deeply because of that. And I also have people who are massively successful, like make millions and millions of dollars, that I hang out with often. And those people, at times, I can't go to with things because we don't share the same values. So with people, it's definitely a values equation. And then with your actual physical environment, I think it just has to like breed peace. I know it sounds like super like not that hardcore answer people want, but I can tell you that like the more peace you feel, the more calm you feel, the better decisions you'll make. It goes back to that whole thing, like you eat bad food, you make bad decisions, like you feel worse, stuff like that. Same thing goes for your environment. If you're in a place where you don't feel comfortable, safe, and you don't feel like you could relax within it, it's not a good place. Like finding a place where you can feel all that.
So I know almost every entrepreneur that I've talked to so far, they go through like the same phase called like the lonely phase. Have you went through that phase? It's like you don't fit in with your
yes. That's a really hard one. Yeah. The lonely phase, like I remember going through this where it's like I don't make enough money to fit in with the richer people. I'm not far enough beyond the people who are normal to no longer fit in with them. You're kind of in this middle ground. Like your family, you're not successful enough that your family gives you credit yet. Yeah. They're just like, are you still doing that? For me, like, are you still doing that workout thing? Like I was like 8 years in, people were still asking me questions like that. But then, like I said, eventually you get over that and things change. So it's a beautiful thing when you get into a place where you find your when you find your place, you'll know. We said when you're around the right people in the right place, you'll know.
You know, Marcus Aurelius once said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." So thinking about challenges you faced, would you say that overcoming obstacles actually paved your path forward?
Absolutely. Life will life will harden you through hardship, but sometimes the hardening is like what makes you into who you need to be. So if you would be to go through life without these hardenings, it's like what is it, steel? Like when you're making a sword, like how you make steel harder is not by, like letting it rest. Like it's by just sticking it back into the fire over and over and over again. Every time you dip it back in, it gets harder and denser and harder. And that's how we are. And like there's a fine line there. You don't want to become so hardened that you lose reality. But for most people, don't worry about that. You're so far from being hard that you could use a couple dips.
Yeah.
It'll definitely put you in the right place.
You said you have a life coach or a trainer, correct?
I have had them. Right now, I don't personally. I do have a lot of really good mentors, so I'll say that. So I have a lot of really close friends and mentors who would be worth me paying $10,000 a year or $10,000 a month to have part of my life. But thank God, like I'm blessed to have them. Mm-hmm. Even like we have local groups in Fort Wayne, like we have the cohort in Fort Wayne. And like the reason that I'm not doing that right now is just because like everyone in the cohort is a friend of mine. So it's like, why would I pay money when I could just go have dinner with those people after they leave the cohort?
So why is mentorship like good?
It's everything. So the one thing with mentorship is that you can fast forward your knowledge so much. So like for me, I have 11 years of experience of what I do, and not just 11 years of general experience, 11 years of very steadfast education, like pushing hard, reading books every week, like trying to become the best. And the second someone hires me, every bit of my knowledge becomes theirs. Everything I know becomes theirs. All my pain, all my struggle, all the things I got wrong and I had to figure out later, all the mistakes I made, they get to skip past all of that and they get to go right into the place where everything works perfect. And if you are struggling in business, get a business coach. Make sure it's a good one. Make sure it's a good one because there's a lot of bad ones. But if you get a good one, you'll never have seen your business grow so fast. If your physique, you want it to transform, get a good physique coach, get a good health coach. You'll never imagine how fast you can change.
I think something that Forrest says a lot too is like you go through these or these mentors go through all these problems so you don't have to go through them. Yeah. Seriously. I said it's a blessing. It's a blessing that I said, and these people want to help you too. It's like they said they went through the struggle. They don't want you to. So there's a mutual value in there. They get to help you. They feel good helping you, and then you get helped. So it's a win-win. Yeah, absolutely. Another philosopher. So this one's a classic.
I love it.
It's not what happens to you, but how you react to that matters the most. So how could you take a situation that is hurtful and flip it to a positive?
That's a really good question. I'll use an example here just because I'm going to try to do my best. Is the more you have gratitude, really can pay attention to what you're so grateful for in your life, the better. I was reading one of my old journals just the other day, and I was with one of my staff members. We were reading one of my old journals, showing an example of a time where I had a contractor work for me at my house on a remodel, and I basically had tens of thousands of dollars stolen from me. And it was a really big problem. So you can assume really stressful. And what I wrote in the journal started very messy. It was very mad and anger. And by the end of the journal, I was writing you know how crazy it is that how much of a blessing it is that I could afford it. Like I had the 30 grand to lose. Like then when you can really get yourself into a place with that kind of perspective where something as horrible as having a lot of money unfairly taken from you, you can look at and go, isn't it amazing that I was in a position where something like that could even happen? Yeah. And my point being is the lens you look at stress through and your ability to step back and find gratitude in everything will change the way you react to everything.
So what advice would you give to somebody that's feeling like self-doubt or pressure on them?
That you're probably right where you need to be. If you seriously, it's like pressure's good and self-doubt is constant. I still feel self-doubt now all the time. I'm more confident than I used to be. You're always growing and confident. The projects get bigger, the things get bigger. The self-doubt doesn't go away. You know what I mean? And when you're first starting out, you should be doubtful. Why should you believe in yourself? There's no proof yet. If you're in your first 6 months, your first couple of years, why should you have no self-doubt? It's not deserved yet.
Yeah. I think I saw a quote the other day. It was like, the world doesn't get harder. You just get stronger.
Exactly. Exactly. Even in the gym, I think of that, which is people will see someone bench 315. And I remember when I was bench 315, people would ask me it's crazy that's light to you. And I'm like, this shit's not light. This thing's just as heavy as it used to be. This stuff, it hurts. You just get stronger. I just can. It doesn't feel lighter in my hands. It doesn't feel different than it used to. It's just now it goes up and down. That's the only difference. So I love that.
Would you say your mentality has a huge role on that?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I lean into stress. And like I said, once again, that's a toxic trait at times. But like I said before, if you can't get really good at handling stress, really good at handling large workloads, and really good at pushing yourself into the hard, you see the storm coming and instead of walking away from it, you get excited. You're walking straight into it. Everybody's getting their cars and they're packing up and they're running away. A few people watching, and you walk right into it because that storm's what's going to make you into what you want. You know what I mean? Like we've said throughout this, no one becomes amazing by running from the storm. No one becomes amazing by not being molded. And molding is not going to come easy. But if you can just accept this is going to be hard, it's already going to put just that alone, just accepting this is going to be hard and I'm still going to do it is going to put you already in a category of the top 5% because the world is soft. And if you can do the bare minimum in life nowadays, you will win because most people can't even do that.
Yeah, I think the competition is definitely getting lighter and that gap is getting wider and wider.
Yeah, it's even in the business field, there's so many guys, like I said, there's the guys who are doing it, who are
that way. Say that they're going to go do it.
And they do it. And then you see guys nowadays that are coming into the business field and you're one of the younger guys coming in. I'm sure you see them around you where, they play the part of the tough guy. They play the part of the hard worker. But there's a lot of these guys or gals who are just playing the part. Simply that. They're just playing the part. They're not actively and actually doing the things that create the success.
I know there's I see this on TikTok all the time. There's these college students down in Miami and they'll rent out a Lambo. They'll rent out these nice cars and buy my course. I can show you how to make all this money. But in reality, they're getting all that money from renting that Lambo and just falsifying it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people they rent a private jet, not to fly it, but just to sit in that. You see all these things. The one thing about fakery like that though is it'll eventually get caught. So in my industry, we see it a lot. I've been in it for 11 years. I've seen hundreds of trainers and coaches, and there's a lot of amazing people in the industry. I could name a few, but there's been a lot of just absolutely uneducated, unprepared, unqualified people. And, for a while they can get hyped up and people will say highly good things about them. But inevitably, no matter who you are, if you are not really walking the walk, if you're not really what you say you are from an education standpoint, from a quality standpoint, from any of these standpoints, it'll come out. You can't hide. The world has a karmic cycle. Those who do good and do the real thing and really work hard will win. The karmic cycle will not let you fail. And I believe that so deep, but the karmic cycle will not let you. If you want good things for your life, do good things, givers gain. Like I said, I love the book, The Go-Giver. It's one of my favorites. Instead of the go-getter, the go-giver. I said, just give more and work really freaking hard and you will win. I promise you.
Yeah. And on top of that, I think wherever you give out, it comes back. It doesn't matter when, but it will come back.
It will. It's just how it is. Like I said, if you're a person who puts bad into the world, it'll catch up with you. I promise you. I've seen it happen 100 times. There's been times where years went by where I saw someone doing bad, and being successful, doing bad. And I just go, man, how? And then eventually one day, it's just, you see it happen. It clicks and it goes away for them. And I've also seen people who just deserve it so bad. They push. And 3 years in, just nothing's happened. You feel so bad for them. You wanted them to win so bad. And then all of a sudden it happens. So I think, like I said, the universe, it balances. So if you can just, like I said, play your role.
How does faith roll into your business?
It's a big part. Like I said, even yesterday, I was at a biblical leadership conference, which doesn't mean that necessarily to be a part of my business, you have to be Christian or, biblically inclined. Because even I have my own back and forth struggle there. But I think having good morals is one of the biggest things in my business. I always say, we have all these certifications for my people to work for me. Like, you got to be a dietitian or a nutrition specialist. You got to have a CNC and a CMP. But one of the things I always joke about is that you have to have a CNP to work for me. So you have to be a certified nice person. It's true. You have to, man. If you don't have good morals, I don't even want to be around you. That's the place I am in my life now, where I'm blessed enough to have the choice in who I spend my time with. I'm blessed enough to be able to choose who works for me. And if I don't want to be around you, or at least if you're not a good person, I'm not going to want to be around you. So, and I think that if you're someone who is confused about your faith, or you're someone who's, because it's really confusing nowadays. It is. There's so many narratives. There's so many things to pay attention to. Religion is confusing. And I'm like, even for the most intelligent people in it. But I would say, don't even worry about religion. Don't worry about stuff that, but just find something that connects you spiritually to the good. Because like I said, if you can just accept that, God is good, whatever you want to call it, don't call it God, the universe, something is good and it's trying to take care of you. If you can look at it like that, because it'll take good care of you. Like I said, there's something good that wants good for you, and you have to play your part. You're not going to sit on the couch and do nothing. Like we said with the bag of gold parable. Yeah. If God gives you the ability to do great things, the universe, whatever you want to call it, and you do nothing, that's what a shame. I
was talking to a friend today, and he was also touching on that subject. You have to let God come into your life and take those battles for you. You just have to be open to it.
Yeah, man. I can't tell you how many times that something didn't make sense. A million times. There's been so many times where things didn't make sense. How is this fair? Look at this horrendous thing that's happened. And you're just going, God, why? Why did this happen to me? I don't deserve this. Look at the karma I deserve. Look at the good I've done. Look at this. How has this happened to me? And then, a year later, 6 months later, a day later, whatever it is, it becomes so clear that he was saving me from some other thing, or that, that thing that I thought was good just was not meant for me. It wasn't. And I think, like I said, if you just accept that, God is good and he's out for your own good, it can put you in at least the right mindset to do stuff. And if God is good and these things are good and you have that, then you almost feel more drive to go do things. Cause it's you have if you have a superhero who's flying behind you, making sure you're safe all the time, you don't have to be very scared. And if it's that same thing for the fact that good things are gonna happen, if you have this thing that's backing you up, that wants you to win.
So yeah, it's just doing the good things every single day and letting them stack up. I know Justin Waller says stuff like this a lot, where you work, it's work. You don't see any results, but you get better. Work. Still no results, but you keep getting better. Then work. Boom. It looks like overnight success in one day.
Yeah, like I said, we were just talking about this this last week with my staff, where I was talking about people want it to be give one, get one. So, I do a deal, I make a bunch of money. I diet for a day, I get skinny. But it's just not how it works in anything. So really what it looks like is give one, get nothing, give one, get nothing, give one, get nothing. And just keep saying this back and forth for 15 times. And then all of a sudden it goes, give one, get 15. And that's how it works. Like I said, and if you can just accept that, being able to push off gratification is probably the biggest weakness I see in society nowadays. It's the biggest weakness I see in people. People live in such instant gratification. And if you're one of these people struggling with it, delete TikTok, delete these apps on your phone, stop playing on your phone at night. Get some discipline, set yourself up. There's a million things you can do, but if you struggle with instant gratification, you will be miserable. It is a sheer line to misery.
I think that plays also another huge role is comparing.
Yeah.
You can't compare yourself with somebody who's been doing this for 15, 20, 30 years when you just started last week. Another thing that Alex Ramarzi says a lot is don't focus on the end result, just focus on getting better every single day. Just make that progress.
Yeah. I love that. Like I said, it's, I can't tell how many times, just to relate it to what I do, I can't tell how many times somebody who's out of shape will start with us and they'll send me a picture of a bodybuilder who's clearly been not only working out diligently and dieting diligently for
Yeah.
probably 15 years and probably had some steroids in the mix too, like to add to like how crazy these physiques they'll send us will be. And they'll be like, you think I could look like this in 6 months? And it's just like you have no idea what you're asking for.
Yeah.
Like this is like getting behind the wheel of your car and expecting to be a NASCAR driver, like sign up as a real estate, agent and expecting that you're going to close your first deal and make $10 million. This is not how things work.
So another thing I do want to top onto that before I forget it is, it's back on the hard road. Like you see these people, how to get abs easy in 10 minutes or how to get abs. like why would it have to be easy? If it's harder, that's why it's more rewardable.
Yes. Well, it goes right back to the societal thing, man. Like people want ease, and I get it. I want ease too. You want ease. We all want it. It's a desire. Like I want to make money doing nothing. I want to sit on my butt and have abs. I want to eat ice cream and stay lean. I want that. It's just not how it works. I didn't make the rules. You didn't make the rules. These are just the rules. And like, you don't get to change the rules, or at least nowadays, what most people seem to do is try to change the perception of the results in the rules so that they don't have to feel bad about it.
Yeah.
like if I can't have things perfectly my way, I'm just going to change the way people feel about it so I feel like a winner too. That's a lot of what's going on.
I would say, well, Derrek, thanks for joining Ambition Blueprint. I appreciate having you on here. And I'm going to look into some of your stuff too for the Hercules. You guys sell supplements, right?
We connect you with getting supplements. Like I said, so
you guys are personal trainers.
Yep. So everything from dietitians, nutrition specialists, trainers, health coaches, and life coaching, everything in between. If you ever need it or anybody ever needs it, get a hold of us.
So you guys are based in Fort Wayne, right? Based
in Fort Wayne. We have clients all over the country. So most of what we do is online at this point. A very unique process where it's still very hands-on. We have a lot of like big infrastructure built out to make that possible. But yeah, we can work with anybody anywhere.
Absolutely. Hear that, guys.
Thank you for having me on, man. Once again, I'll add this. Like I said, I appreciate the heck out of you.
Absolutely, sir. Appreciate it.